myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you.
Good evening, I'm Steve Wraith.
I'm Malcolm MacDonald.
And I'm John Gibson.
Welcome to NUFC Matters. Hi and welcome to NUFC Matters. My name's Steve Wraith and tonight, as always, I'm joined by Malcolm MacDonald, Super Mac, and the Chronicles' John Gibson. Lads, let's look back at the Chelsea game. I think we all predicted a defeat. It was a narrow defeat, 1-0 at Stamford Bridge. How did you see the game?
Well, I thought that Newcastle, they worked, it was a containment plan, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it seemed to be working pretty well. The one major problem is that when you're playing that kind of sort of defensive football, what you need is to get up to the other end of the pitch and even nick a goal.
Yeah.
And I couldn't help but notice the two Sunday papers that I got, I just happened to look through the marks that were given by the two different journalists of the players. And they were just about identical, going all the way through.
Yeah.
And the goalkeeper had high marks, all the back line had high marks, all the midfield had high marks. The two guys up front, Joe Linton and Almiron, 5. Which means that they both had a nightmare, that they didn't really take part. And I just thought, you know, and this is something that I don't normally give attention to very much.
Yeah.
But I just found it interesting that they were both identical to quite separate papers, and they were really putting the finger on what the problem is at Newcastle. That it doesn't matter how well the goalkeeper does, the back four does, the midfield does, if when they get into the last third, nothing's happening.
Yeah, true.
Nobody's offering anything.
5 goals in 9 games tells us what the problem is, Malcolm.
Tells a story, doesn't it? Yes. And you can't go to places like Stamford Bridge and expect to get anything out of it if you're not creating a threat up the front.
Yeah.
And it's just not there.
I mean, what is frightening is that we've spent money on buying attacking players.
Yes.
And we're not getting any goals. Well, not just those two, and most certainly, because you've got your centre forward and Almiron, but if you take whoever plays on the left, whether it's the Saint who wasn't playing much, or Atsu that played before him, whether you go through Gale and Carroll, who have just been used as subs, Mutu, who we've almost forgot about. There's 7 attacking players. I've done an article in the Chronicle on this. There's 7 attacking players to pick your front 3 from, and between them this season in the Premier League, they've scored 1 goal. Joe Linton's at Spurs.
Yeah.
7 attackers, and between them, whichever 7 of the 3 out of 7 you want to pick against Wolves, the record is that all 7 have scored 1 goal between them in the Premier League this season, and that was Joe Linton's at Spurs. Now that record, and I think it's £102 million to assemble the 7. Andy Carroll was the free transfer because of all his injuries. If you throw in then Jacob Murphy, who come from 12 million, has been so bad, he's been shoveled out on loan to Sheffield Wednesday, where he can't get in the side. Then the Newcastle spotters that have brought talent, goal scorers to Newcastle, have spent an awful lot of money for no goals whatsoever.
And what they're doing is, and this is, I think this is what was so annoying Rafa. And why he wanted to tie the club down specifically so that he had quality, because it was always that the managers, they sort of controlled who came in, who went out.
In your day with Joe Harvey, they did.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes,
And Joe, he would organise his scouts. These days, it's a completely separate department.
Yeah, it's like a chain of command.
That's right. And I look at, because going back some months to almost the beginning of the year, Rafa Benitez, he understood that the club was interested in Joe Linton. He then heard that the fee was 40 million, and he went to them and he said, look, maybe take him, but he's not worth that. In fact, he's not worth half of that.
Yeah.
And yet they still went out and spent £40 million on Joe Linton, when a man who has won the European Cup
says he's
is
not worth
saying
the money.
he's not worth it.
Yeah. Interesting stat from the weekend: 8 goals amongst our 3 top northeastern teams: Newcastle, Middlesbrough, and Sunderland. 7 of them were at Middlesbrough.
No. And did they miss every one?
So that's shots.
That's chances, not
chances.
That's just
It's
shots.
chances.
Chances, yeah, unbelievable.
But
7 at Middlesbrough, 1 at Sunderland, none at Newcastle. Yeah, and that's a reflection.
Not that I'm breaking my heart about Middlesbrough and Sunderland, but I am breaking my heart.
And of course
about
they're at a lower standard. But
Yes.
we hear this every week. People watch the show back and subscribe to the NUFC Matters on YouTube. They'll hear Malcolm time and time again saying whenever he played, he used to get given the idea originally came from the likes of his Luton Town manager and
Alex
Stock and Jackie Milburn.
Yes.
Shoot.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to miss.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're not even getting into the box. We're not creating chances.
If you watch now, Almiron is frightened stiff of actually getting to the penalty area with the ball at his feet. He's frightened stiff of it because he knows that there's another miss coming and it's all stacking up against him.
Yeah.
Joe Linton, if you watch him carefully, there are times when he even turns his back on things because he doesn't really want to get involved. And this is what happens when players, when they're not sticking stuff away.
Yeah.
And
There
confidence
is a
breeds
question.
confidence.
Absolutely, Malcolm.
And it's quite the opposite that's going on at Newcastle at the
But
moment.
would you say, I'm trying desperately to think of mitigating circumstances because we've banged on an awful lot both in the newspaper and on this show about the lack of goals up front and 5 in 9 games and 7 attackers, 1 goal between them. Is there mitigating circumstances that because we play on the counter-attack, even at home we play on the counter-attack, we don't have a great percentage of the ball, that we're not creating a lot of chance because we always hear that if there's a defensive Joe Linton, it's that he's got to come out of the area to look for the ball. Now, are we creating enough either from our wide men or from our central midfield to give us a genuine chance of scoring some goals? We know we haven't got natural finishers, but has some of the blame got to lie elsewhere as well?
All you're hearing and all you're seeing, sorry to interrupt you, Malcolm, is that, the positivity is, they're trying to get it out of the dressing room. They're saying that we're looking great going forward. Frank Lampard paid respect to Newcastle, saying they look good going forward. But that's no good if you've got no end
That's right, because it goes so far and then it can't go any further because people aren't doing what they need to do.
Yeah.
And I don't think that those 2 players, Almiron and Joe Linton, I don't think they're getting involved in the game enough. But I don't think that they've got it in their heads to know how to do it, what to be targeting.
Here's an interesting thought. I've said 7 attackers on the books when all are fit, which is not all the time. But Steve Bruce can't do anything whatsoever about this until January, apart from stick with his 7 attackers and try to shunt them together. if they are all fit, or let's say the situation against Wolves this weekend,
Yeah.
who do you pick?
Well,
Do you drop him? Do you drop Joe Linton?
can I rather than go to who do you pick, and I know who I would just at the moment, but there is something that you can do now, and that is get somebody like Alan Shearer or myself, get them onto the training ground and say, this is how you score goals. And I got 260 odd goals. Alan Shearer got even more than that. And that's a wealth of experience that you can pass on, because there are so many tricks to the trade of how you go about scoring goals.
Yeah.
The game, they say, the game changes though. Heck, goal scoring doesn't.
No.
Goal scoring does not change.
No, of course it doesn't.
And so, I watch these players, and there is nobody helping them, showing them what it's really all about. Almiron is frightened out of his life at the moment.
Yeah, he is.
He's frightened to get the ball. He's frightened to be in a 1-against-1, particularly if it's just 1-against-1 with a keeper. Absolutely frightened, scared stiff.
Here's an interesting thought, Steve.
Yeah.
You were saying, should we drop Joe Linton? Give him a rest, take him out the firing line if you like.
Yeah.
Now, the immediate problem with that, and my first reaction is yes, that's the best thing to do.
Yeah.
My second reaction, and we're talking about playing Wolves on Sunday, is supposing you take him out of the number 9 role, even if you want to play him on the left side, say.
Yeah.
You take him out number 9 role, who do you play in that role? Bearing in mind this Sunday that you can't play Andy Carroll because he's got a groin strain and he's already been ruled out of the game.
Yeah.
Now, the obvious guy that may score goals and hasn't been given an opportunity yet is Dwight Gale.
Yeah.
And I thoroughly understand that because he can get beyond, etc., etc. But he can't play as a target man with his size.
You're absolutely
so
right,
who
John.
do you play as your target man?
If Andy Carroll were fit, he and Dwight Gale would make a tremendous partnership.
Will he ever be fit again?
Well, that's
I mean,
the
really,
$64,000 question, isn't it?
Honest, when I read this week, here's a guy that Newcastle have signed and were being touted as the possible Geordie saviour of us Geordies. This is a guy that has played only as a sub. He is not quite ready, we were told before this injury was revealed with it. Not quite ready to start for a couple of weeks. But he is training 2 days a week. 2 days a week. And I know you've got I know a chocolate teapot is likely to last longer than Andy is, bless him, with his injuries. But I mean, we signed him and everybody was saying, what a great signing because he's a free transfer. You're not a great signing because you're a free transfer unless you actually play. Yeah. And this lad, unfortunately, and he's only, 30, 31, he's got a history of injuries that is not good. And he hasn't played since January, if he's managing to train 2 days a week and still isn't ready to start again, what good's he going to be to us before January window?
Getting some text in on Facebook. John Ball says, evening fellas, do you not think Joe Linton spending 90% of his game with his back to goal when we need our striker playing the other way, meaning his game is based on holding the ball up, but if midfield are not getting up to support, there's a big problem. Jimmy McLeod, hold that thought, Malcolm. Jimmy McLeod also says, I personally believe that if forwards are not getting service from midfield, then how are they going to score? However, I still don't rate the strikers, hence shots on target stats are abysmal and simply goals win games. What do you think, gents?
It's a very good point, and it's a point I made just before, saying that while it's quite obvious that the front guys can't score enough goals off their own bat, we've got to look at the rest of the team as well and saying, are the wide people providing enough crosses, and are the centre midfield players providing enough as playmakers to encourage the situation? I mean, I'm not certain, and we've said for long that Joe Linton is a centre forward. But
Mal, what's your thoughts?
I see what you're saying, John, and I understand it. I think that there is a pressure on Joe Linton which he's not able to cope with at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think that what he's doing is that he's rather than looking to make his runs in and get into space so that the midfield can then knock it. What he's doing is actually looking to make it difficult for the midfield to find him, because I don't think he really wants the ball.
Right.
I don't think he does, and I don't think in the last third that Almiron wants it either.
Yeah.
And so we've got two forwards whose confidence is that crushed at the moment that they're not saying, "Here, come on, give me the ball," and holding centre halves off and being physical in doing that, you know, and that was something that Alan Shearer was absolutely brilliant at.
Yeah.
And I would be tempted, if I was Steve Bruce, to get a whole load of footage of Alan Shearer and sit Joe Linton down and say, "This is how you do it. You're quicker than him.
Yeah.
You're as big as him, and have a look at what he's doing." And Alan Shearer always made an outlet for whichever midfield player was in possession.
Yeah.
Joe Linton is he's sort of getting behind an opposing player, so that they can't play the ball into him.
Yeah.
And that's a problem, because we have got two excellent central midfield players, the Longstaff brothers. The one thing that youngsters need is constant movement and people offering themselves, saying, "Come on, give it to me, give it feet, you know, or stick it on there for me," and so the Longstaffs can just knock it into the forward man and then get forward and go making runs off. But at the moment, they're looking up and they're seeing nothing, so they've got to turn round and go back.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or sideways.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting thought as well, because when you have your scouts going out looking for your talent, Malcolm, as you well know, you can't just go and buy a few individuals and then throw them together like a Barbados rugby side and think it's all going to work and they're going to doctor. Now, I look at our three forwards against Chelsea, the front three, and now each one of them prefers to play on the left. Joe Linton played left side for his German club, played attacking left side for his German club. Almiron, when he came here and he played on the Rafa, played left side.
Yes.
And since he's moved to right side, he's looked half the player that he was. And the Saint, the new man, is left sided.
Absolutely.
So your three strikers all want to play on the left.
Nobody on the right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or through the centre.
Or through
It's
the
all
centre.
lopsided.
Yeah.
They all want to play
Yes.
there.
Yes. But
Another quote from Petrie, he says, "I'd love to see if there's a connection between Gale and Joe Linton," which is backing up what you said. He said, "Let Dwight start up front against Wolves." John Moody says, "I'd rather play Malcolm than Gale."
And that's now, by the way.
But it's, I mean, look, it's a problem that Steve Bruce has got, and he's got to solve it this weekend.
It's a problem this Sunday.
It's a massive,
it's a hell of a, yes.
Two teams that don't score goals, but we'll come to that at the end of the show. Injury news. Let's move on to that. Obviously, you've already announced there about Andy Carroll groin injury. We knew it was going to be awkward. We knew it was going to be difficult. All of those wanting to rush Andy Carroll back. We can now see why the club are taking their time. He's not going to be 100% fit all of the time. We're going to have to try and get the best out of him, and it's going to be picking the time to do that. But good news, Richie is back in training. Lejeune is back in training, but we've had another injury blow. Shaw is now injured with a knee injury. Not a position though that we're struggling with, but he is one of our better players.
Sure, he is, but
as Steve Bruce likes to call it. If I could turn back time.
Sonny and Sher.
But I think that Darren Clark comes in and does a brilliant job.
Yeah, Kieran Clark.
Kieran Clark, I mean.
The point
Sorry,
is,
not Darren.
we've got there's Clark in there. You've got Paul Dummett standing by.
Yes, absolutely.
It's the right side.
Yeah.
It's the right side that Shaw plays.
Yeah.
And Clark and Dummett are naturally left-sided.
Yes.
So you've got to find somebody to play on the right side of the three.
Yeah.
And Fernandez is the other one that comes into the thinking. Plenty of players in that defence, but it's who shuffles across and plays right side.
Yeah, you could put Lascelles right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you're going to
in
have
the middle, and Dummett on the left.
On there, or Fernandez, without a shadow of doubt. Lejeune will be a big help when he comes back, but I think
he will.
he's some time off coming back yet. I think it'll be the end of next month before he comes back.
He's been a quick healer in the past, though. It's a same injury, and you know, he's got to.
He's done terrific, and getting him back will be good. Getting Richie back for the overall position of the squad, not just the team.
Any further news on Richie?
No,
is he actually in with a shout?
He's getting closer, isn't he? But I mean, John might know more than me on that.
He's trying to say that he could make Sunday.
Yeah.
Steve Bruce is saying, be careful, Sunday's too quick. Look at the next game.
But if Richie comes in, this is going back to what we were saying just a few minutes ago, that's another left-sided player.
But he could play
he could go on the right-hand side, certainly. But nevertheless, it's all left-sided players.
Yeah,
you normally can't find them, you know.
I know.
You normally can't find them.
And then three come along at once.
Yeah, it's like buses in London. But I mean, it'll be good to get him back.
Yeah, because he can do a great job whichever side he goes. And the thing with him is he just absolutely guarantees you 100% every second of the game.
Yeah.
And it's infectious. He has a great way about him that you see other players picking it up. And he would be great with the Longstaffs alongside them and helping them along. He's got terrific experience.
He's got a great engine.
Yeah, he has.
He's got a great
engine, but also he's got great experience,
attitude,
and he's talking all the time. He's communicating, and that's what the Longstaffs need.
I was going to wear a Mexican sombrero tonight, but couldn't find one at short notice. Mexican takeover now.
I don't think you're going to have to find one long term, mate. I don't think.
I remember wearing one for when Mirandina played. We all used to wear Mexican sombreros.
Absolutely correct.
And he was from Brazil. Had nothing to do with it. But
But
there's a takeover, Malcolm.
Oh, come on! It's the same pattern, isn't it?
Well, I mean,
that it's all announced before anything's ever
the next one will be
Mike's met him, hasn't he? He's met the Mexican takeover man, but he's upset him and walked out.
Well, I mean, it'll be the man on the moon. It'll be the next guy who's going to take over.
I've heard he's going to meet him.
I know, he's a smiling little so-and-so, the man on the moon as well.
It is just ridiculous. I mean, it's now getting to the point.
It's getting to be nonsense, and it's getting to be, Steve, where we all just go, oh, yeah, sure, there we go again. Because, and we've said it repeatedly on the air, and we've said it everywhere, when Newcastle are taken over, as they must be someday, although it could be years ahead, it will happen, it'll be announced. We'll not get all this business of knowing about it in advance. That's not the way takeovers work.
When Man City, when the deal was completed, there were executives in the club who had no idea that it had been happening.
No,
and it was only when it was completely completed did everybody then find out.
Absolutely.
And that included executives at that club. They knew nothing. And yet with Newcastle, the first thing that comes out is an announcement as to exactly who it is and this, that and the other.
But
have the talk started? No, they haven't, of course.
But of course, it's because they put it out, the potential takeover people put, because they want as much publicity as they can before it collapses. And that's all we've had recently, living on false hopes.
Yeah, and
so we've got Wolves at home this Saturday.
Right. Did you see Wolves play against Man City?
Yes.
In Manchester.
I saw the highlights.
Did you?
Yes.
I watched the first half, and Wolves, before they scored, they had 3 one-on-ones with a keeper and missed them all. They finished up winning 2-0.
Yeah.
And the football was absolutely fabulous to watch. They won 2-0. It could have been 5. It should have been 5. When you've got 3 one-on-ones with a keeper, they should go in. And I thought, the best I've seen so far is Leicester in the second half against Chelsea.
Yeah.
They were absolutely fabulous then. And the next is Wolves. They are seriously a very, very good footballing side.
They're not a bad. I mean, they're not a bad team. The last. I mean, I think it's.
Oh, they're
you've
going
got
to
to go back to 2011.
creating chance after
Since
chance.
we last beat them at St James's Park.
Yeah.
I think we've had a couple of defeats and a draw. So it's a tough game.
Oh,
Every
it's
game's
a
tough in the
hell of a
Premier
game,
League,
this.
and these don't score goals either.
And
The interesting thing, though, is Steve Bruce himself, God bless him, came out after we played at Chelsea and, didn't get a kick in the second half, but it defended well. It was only 1-0, and he sort of come out and, in effect, said, phew, well, at least we've played all these top teams, early in the season, and it's been tough. But thankfully, we're now coming into a period where we're going to play the sort of teams who will be around us. In other words, this is where we've got the chance to get results. And what he meant by that is the next 4 games, I think, are Wolves, West Ham, Bournemouth, and Aston Villa. Now, they do give you a chance, but what concerns me is that we were also given a chance against Norwich, Watford, and Brighton, and didn't beat any one of those. So this is when the pressure's on. The pressure wasn't really on at Chelsea. It wasn't really on at Spurs when we took advantage.
Sure, but
the pressure's on now.
I still think, though, that Steve Bruce, maybe it's just that he feels that he needs to say it and maybe doesn't believe it. But I think he's being somewhat disingenuous to the likes of Bournemouth. Have you seen where Bournemouth are in the table?
Yeah.
They're securely in the top half. Wolves, they're up there in the top half.
Yeah. They haven't had a good season, mind Wolves.
No,
by last season's
by last season's standards, but they're still doing a damn sight better than Newcastle are.
Well, everybody bought 2 sides, or is it 2 sides beneath us? That's all.
Sure, but at the same time,
you've got to get a result against Wolves at home if you're going to stay up.
Well, 100%. If we fail, here's an interesting stat again. We'll fail to score on Sunday. That'll be 5 goals in the opening 10 games, which is our worst start goals-wise since 1893. Which eclipses the record, which was last season when we scored 6 in 10.
That's alarm bells going off for me.
It is.
We're busy on the text tonight. Jimmy says, unfortunately, gents, I would adopt park the bus tactics on Sunday and play Route 1 football for the rest of the season. It's not pretty, but it seems to be the only way forward with the current personnel, unfortunately.
Route 1 is back 4 to the guys up front, and the guys up front are the ones that aren't doing it at the moment. So all you're doing is you're just giving the ball away.
Ben Nakrood says Wolves are a cracking side to watch, like to play attacking football. They'll be tricky opponents, and we'll need to be switched on at the back to contain them.
Absolutely, yes, I couldn't agree more.
Sue Perryman says, lovely stream tonight, guys. Thank you. Ben Nakrood says, if we sit back and invite them on to us, we will come undone. We need to show some attacking spirit and venture forward whilst being aware of the counter-attacking ability that Wolves have. Some great points there as well. Let's just touch on a little bit of news from today. Martin Dubravka has signed one of those amazing 6-year contracts that footballers seem to sign now. It's either 6 or 8 in Newcastle.
Ashley used to like giving those.
He used to give 8s, but Martin's got a 6.
Scout and your manager and everybody got the long contracts in the old days with Graham Carn, Alan Pardew, etc.
I don't think anybody can deny that Dubravka deserves it.
Fans will be delighted. Fans will be delighted.
It's a bit of good news.
And I am as well, I think.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, he's been never present virtually since he came, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. He's made a couple of slip-ups
as
this season,
goalkeepers
but the pressure has seriously been on him, and I think that overall he's reacted powerfully to it.
Yeah, I was well pleased to see that today. That's good.
Petri says, I think these are the matches from where we should get all 3 points at home against mediocre clubs like Wolves. Again, they're not mediocre. They had a really good season last season, but I get your point, Petri. We should be picking up points at St James's Park.
That's the point I just made. At some stage, we've got to get points against sides that are technically or theoretically better than us. And this is one of them. And so are the next. Yes, they're above us, Malcolm. Yes, Bournemouth's above us. Yes, Aston Villa have got a few results recently, but if we keep going on like that, we're going to go down.
I haven't seen 3 teams worse than Newcastle this season yet. I can't say that there's 3 teams that would finish below us. That's a problem as well. Normally you can say X, Y, and Z. They're all
I
good.
understand what you're saying, because Watford came, they played the identical formation, but they played it properly. And Newcastle really struggled for it, and Watford came out looking a much better
difficult.
side.
I mean,
that's frightening.
You keep hoping before the season starts, Malcolm, that the sides that are coming up, they'll go straight back down. Then you look at Sheffield United and Aston Villa, who haven't done it all badly.
Yeah, did you see Sheffield United against Arsenal?
They keep getting the results, and you keep waiting for the bubble to burst, but it doesn't.
You know, they played a very patient game, and they sort of let Arsenal do what Arsenal want to do. But in the end, it's who sticks it in the net.
Exactly. Quick prediction then for this weekend, lads. Newcastle United versus Wolverhampton Wanderers at home, Sunday, 2 o'clock at St James's Park. Gibbo, your prediction?
Dear, oh dear. I'm going to go 1-1 because I don't see us winning. I know that Malcolm's going to immediately say to me who's going to score your goal. But it might be an own goal, pal.
It might well be.
An own goal. But I'm going to go 1-1. I mean, I can see us getting beaten, but I'm going to go 1-1.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the only scoreline that's in my head. I can't think of anything else other than a 1-1 draw.
It's not going to be a classic. I'm a little bit more optimistic this weekend. I think Wolves are there to be beaten. I think it'll be a tough game, but I have been encouraged, by a few signs. But there's not going to be a great deal of goals. I'll go for the 1-0 win. You two have gone for the draw. I'll go for a 1-0 win with Joe Linton to break his home duck.
And here's 3 of us, and not one of us have said Newcastle will lose.
Well, that's a positive.
That's
a positive.
That is a positive.
I do want to give a quick mention to Tune for Change. Obviously, one of the groups, a protest group, on Twitter. If you want to follow them, give them a follow at Tune for Change. They're bringing out a scarf, which is a commendable effort. 50 pence from the first 100 scarves is donated to NECCR, the cancer charity. They're celebrating a time when Newcastle United competed with the biggest clubs in the world, but also acting as a symbolic rejection of Mike Ashley's ownership of Newcastle United. Our era of ambition scarves are available now. Great charity there for them to support, and doing it for the right reasons. If you want one of those, they're selling very quickly. They're $7.99 retro scarves in the lovely purple and blue that we used to wear under the entertainers. Footballshoponline.com is where you can buy them. As for NUFC Matters, please subscribe. Malcolm, Gibbo and myself and the guys behind the scenes, we all do this each week for free. We do have a sponsor now. A big shout out to UK Collection Services. But from our perspective, we want to keep the show running. So if you want to help us do that, it costs you nothing. All we need you to do is subscribe to the channel and you won't miss any. We've got loads of great content on there. All of our previous shows from the start of the season are on there. And our 30-second rants are also on there as well, where we talk about everything from VAR to safe standing and whatever the lads decide to throw at us when we go off air tonight. But please click the subscribe button, search NUFC Matters on YouTube just to help us keep going. But that's all from us tonight. We will be back next week. It's good night from me.
Good night from me, certainly.
And bye-bye.
And we're going to play out with a Swagger, which is a great new single by the lads, and I'm hoping to bring them to Newcastle at a gig next season.
It's time to grow and never look back. Why don't you realize the past, the future, it's all in your hands. Just let it be another day in the world. The fear, the gear, stop living in fear. When will you know your mind? It's time to take control of your life. When will you see? Chin up, chin up, chin up, chin up, boy. When will you find out who you are? Chin up, chin up, chin up, chin up, boy. When will is life just a game? Where will you be? Chin up, chin up, chin up, chin up, boy. When will you find out who you are? Chin up, chin up, chin up, chin up, boy. When will you find a way? Chin up, chin up, chin up, chin up, boy. When will you see the sun? Come out of this world before you leave this town. It's never too late, you gotta take it now. Stand and fight before you hit the ground. Now you are changing forever. Chin up, chin up, chin up, chin up, boy. Chin up, chin up, chin up, chin up, boy. Chin up, chin up, chin up, chin up, boy. When will you find out who you are? Chin up, chin up, chin up, chin up, boy. When will you find your way? Chin up, chin up, chin up, chin up, boy. Chin up, chin up, chin up, chin up, chin up, chin up,
What? Why you stop playing? What? Keep on playing. I ain't going nowhere. What? What? Oh, little buddy boy of his band. What? What? Play the music. Get out, mate. Get out? What are you talking about? Get out. I paid to be here.